The reservation was not hers. Serena Caldwell had only stopped at the River Cafe to pick up a contract revision her editor had left at the front desk. A 5-minute errand. She had told herself she would be home before Lily finished her homework. She never made it past the entrance. The moment the door opened, warm air wrapped around her. Candlelight. Low jazz. The smell of good wine and something roasted and rich. The River Cafe was beautiful on winter nights. Through the tall windows, the entire Manhattan skyline reflected off the dark water below, still and silver, like the city was holding its breath. Serena had been here before, with Marcus, their 10th anniversary. He had ordered a Bordeaux she could not pronounce, and told her she was the best decision he had ever made. She remembered that now, because Marcus was sitting at table 12, corner booth, soft amber candlelight, and his fingers were laced through another woman's hand across the white tablecloth. Not a handshake, not a friendly touch, slow, deliberate, intimate. The woman was younger, dark hair, red dress. She leaned toward Marcus and said something close to his face, and Marcus laughed, that quiet, private laugh Serena had not heard in years. Serena stood completely still for 11 seconds. She counted them without meaning to. 1, 2. The jazz kept playing. 3, 4. A waiter moved past without noticing her. 5, 6. The woman in the red dress laughed again. 7, 8. Marcus reached up and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. 9, 10, 11. Serena reached into her coat pocket and took out her iPhone, hands completely steady. She opened the camera, framed the shot carefully. Table 12, the candle, the laced fingers, Marcus's face full and unmistakable, and took 3 photographs. Then she turned and walked back out into the cold. She did not cry. Not on the sidewalk, not in the Toyota. She sat with both hands on the wheel, engine off, watching the skyline through the windshield. She picked up her phone and called Jordan. "It's me. I need you tonight." Across the restaurant, Diane glanced toward the entrance and noticed a woman walking out. She mentioned it casually to Marcus. Marcus smiled, picked up his wine glass and said, "Don't worry about her. She never notices anything." Jordan Ellis opened her door before Serena finished climbing the stairs. One look, no questions. She stepped aside. The apartment on West 73rd Street was warm and cluttered with case files. A MacBook Air sat open on the kitchen table. Jordan closed it without being asked, cleared a space, and reached for the bourbon instead of water. They sat across from each other. Serena placed her iPhone on the table and slid it across without a word. Jordan looked at the 3 photographs. Her jaw tightened slowly. She set the phone down the way you set down something that might break. "How long?" Serena asked. Jordan was quiet for 5 full seconds. Not about the woman, about the money. 2 years. Serena did not speak. Jordan stood, walked to the bedroom, and returned carrying a small handheld recorder. Old model. The kind attorneys used before everything moved to cloud storage. She set it on the table between them like evidence. 2 years ago, Marcus called me. So he wanted to bring me on as inside counsel for Caldwell Group. We met for coffee on 5th Avenue. He was relaxed, charming. But halfway through the conversation, he mentioned restructuring the marital assets. Said it was routine tax planning. Said you had already agreed. Serena's hands went still on the table. You had never agreed to anything. Jordan's voice was quiet. I knew it the moment he said it. The way he said your name, like you were a line item, not a person. Why didn't you tell me? Jordan looked down. Because I was afraid of what it would cost you to know, and I was afraid you wouldn't believe me over him. She pressed play. Marcus's voice filled the quiet kitchen, smooth, unhurried, explaining in careful language exactly how he intended to move Serena's name off 3 key property holdings before filing for divorce. The recording was 4 minutes and 17 seconds long. Serena listened to every single word without moving. When it ended, the kitchen was completely silent. Then Jordan's phone buzzed. She looked at the screen, and her face changed. She turned it toward Serena. It was a court filing notification. Marcus had submitted divorce papers that morning. The timestamp read, 9:47 a.m., 11 hours ago. They had 36 hours before the asset freeze became permanent. Jordan was already pulling up the filing on her laptop when the knock came. 3 knocks. Deliberate. Not urgent, but certain. Both women froze. It was 11:42 at night. Jordan checked the door camera on her phone. A man stood in the hallway, mid-40s, dark coat. He was holding a briefcase and looking directly at the camera as if he knew exactly where it was. Jordan opened the door 2 inches, chain still on. "My name is Owen Hartley," the man said. "I was CFO of Caldwell Group until Marcus fired me 22 months ago. I've been waiting for someone to finally move against him." He looked past Jordan to Serena. "I think tonight is that night." Serena studied him from across the room. She recognized the name. Marcus had mentioned Owen once, dismissively, as someone who couldn't handle pressure. She had never questioned it. She nodded once. "Let him in." Owen sat at the kitchen table and opened the briefcase. Inside was a single external hard drive and a manila folder thick with printed documents. He slid the folder across first. "I kept copies of everything before he deleted the servers. The financial records go back 4 years. Shell companies in Delaware and Nevada. Def payments routed through vendor accounts that don't exist. He was moving money out of Caldwell Group slowly enough that no single transaction would trigger an audit flag." Jordan was already scanning the first pages. Her face was unreadable in the focused way it got when something was serious. Serena reached for the manila folder. She flipped to the 3rd page and stopped. It was a memo. Internal. Marcus's signature at the bottom. The subject line read, "Pre-litigation preparation. Spouse." She read it carefully. Twice. Marcus had retained a psychiatrist 11 months ago to prepare documentation, suggesting Serena was emotionally unstable and unfit for primary custody of Lily. The doctor's name was printed clearly at the bottom of the page. Serena recognized it immediately. It was the same doctor Marcus had lovingly insisted she see after Lily was born, telling her she just needed a little support. The same appointment she had trusted him to arrange. They worked through the night. Jordan spread documents across the kitchen table in careful columns. Owen walked them through the financial trail, page by page, transaction by transaction. The picture assembled itself slowly, the way damage always reveals itself. Not all at once, but in layers, each one worse than the last. By 2 in the morning, they had enough for an emergency asset freeze motion. By 2:30, Serena stopped contributing to the conversation. Jordan noticed first. She looked up from her laptop and saw Serena sitting very still, holding a single photograph she had taken from her wallet. Their wedding photo was small and slightly worn at the edges. Marcus was laughing at something off camera. Serena was looking at him. Jordan said her name quietly. Serena didn't respond for a long moment. Then she said, very slowly, "I gave up my partnership track for him. He asked me to. Said he needed me home. Said Lily needed stability. Said we had enough money that I didn't need to work like that anymore. I believed him. I thought it was love." The kitchen was very quiet. She set the photo face down on the table. "I remember the exact day I signed those asset restructuring documents. He brought them home in a leather folder, said it was routine. He handed me his Mont Blanc pen, and I signed without reading them because he was my husband, and I trusted him." Owen didn't say anything. There was nothing useful to say. Jordan closed her laptop, and she walked around the table and sat next to Serena and said nothing for a full minute. Sometimes that is the only honest thing to offer. At 3:15, Serena stood up. She walked to the kitchen sink and ran cold water over her wrists, the way she used to do before closing arguments when she was still practicing law. A habit from another life. She dried her hands, turned around. Her voice, when it came, was completely level. Then Serena's phone buzzed once on the table. A text from an unknown number read, "I know what he did. I can help you, but you have to meet me before 7 a.m., or I disappear." They met at a diner on Amsterdam Avenue at 6:15 in the morning. The woman was already there when Serena arrived. Young, 27 at most. Dark circles under her eyes, both hands wrapped around a coffee mug, a small tote bag on the seat beside her, like she had packed it in a hurry. Her name was Nina Reyes. She had been Marcus's personal assistant for 4 years. "I was fired yesterday," Nina said. "No notice, no severance. He sent the termination through HR while I was at lunch so he wouldn't have to see my face." Serena sat down across from her. "Why are you here?" Nina looked at her steadily. "Because he told me to delete certain email threads last week. I didn't delete them. I copied them first." She reached into the tote bag and placed a USB drive on the table. "I kept my mouth closed for 4 years because I needed the job. I have student loans. I have a mother who is sick. I told myself it wasn't my business." Nina paused. "Then yesterday he fired me by email, like I was nothing. And I thought, if I stay quiet now, I am nothing." Serena picked up the USB drive. "What's on this?" "Everything." Nina's voice was steady now. 2 years of emails between Marcus and his attorney planning the divorce, the custody strategy, the psychiatric documentation they commissioned, the financial restructuring timeline. Jordan, sitting beside Serena, leaned forward. "Is there anything on here beyond what we already have?" Nina looked at Jordan, then back at Serena. "There is one email you need to read before anything else." She reached over and turned the USB drive over in Serena's hand. In that email, Marcus wrote to his attorney in plain language. "If the asset strategy fails, shift focus to the child. Make the court believe she is an unfit mother. Use whatever is necessary." Serena set the USB drive down very carefully on the table. Outside, the city was just beginning to wake up, and Serena Caldwell, who had spent 13 years being the quiet one, finally understood exactly how long she had been a target. Marcus moved first. Serena was at home Thursday afternoon, helping Lily with a school project about the solar system, when her phone rang. It was the principal's office at Lily's school on the Upper West Side. "Mrs. Caldwell, we received a call this morning from someone expressing concern about your home situation. We are required to follow up." Serena kept her voice even. "What kind of concern?" The caller suggested you had been experiencing emotional instability, that Lily's well-being may be affected. Serena closed her eyes for exactly 2 seconds. When she opened them, Lily was looking up at her with a red marker in her hand, waiting patiently. "I will come in tomorrow morning," Serena said. 8 o'clock. She hung up. She finished helping Lily color in Saturn's rings. She made dinner. She gave Lily a bath and read 2 chapters of her book and turned off the light and said goodnight. Then she went to the kitchen, sat down, and allowed herself exactly 10 minutes to feel the full weight of what Marcus was doing. He was not just trying to take her money. He was trying to take her daughter. The next morning, Serena sat across from the principal in a small office that smelled like coffee and old carpet. She listened to the concerns carefully. She answered every question with the calm precision of someone who had once argued before judges. When it was over, the principal handed her a printed intake form. "Standard procedure," she said apologetically. "We document the source of all anonymous concerns." Serena looked at the form. The anonymous tip had been submitted through an online contact portal, but the submission's associated email domain was visible at the bottom of the printout. It ended in caldwellgroup.com. Serena folded the paper neatly and placed it in her bag. She called Jordan from the parking lot. He used his company email domain. "I have it in writing." Jordan's voice went sharp and quiet. "That is witness tampering with intent. That changes everything." That afternoon, Serena picked up Lily from school, held her daughter's hand on the sidewalk, and thought, "He just gave me the one thing I was still missing." Serena made spaghetti for dinner because it was Lily's favorite. They sat at the kitchen table together, and Lily talked about school, about her best friend's new puppy, or about wanting to learn how to do a cartwheel. Normal things, small things, the kind of conversation that holds a life together when everything underneath it is cracking. After dinner, while Serena washed dishes, Lily sat on the counter the way she always did, kicking her feet against the cabinet. "Mama," she said, "can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Why does Daddy talk on the phone in the bathroom with the door locked? He always comes out smiling but then acts normal again, really fast." Serena kept washing the same plate she had already washed. She kept her voice gentle. "Does he do that a lot?" Lily thought about it. "Yeah, especially on Fridays." A pause. Then Lily added, in the uncomplicated way children deliver the things that break adults. "One time when Daddy took me to his office after school, there was a lady there with dark hair. She bought me ice cream from the cart outside. She was really nice. She told me she was going to be around a lot more soon. She said it was a happy surprise for our family." Lily looked at her hands. "Daddy said not to tell you because it was a special secret, and secrets make surprises better." The water was still running. Serena turned it off. She set the dish down. She turned around and looked at her daughter. 9 years old, completely innocent, holding information she had been asked to hide because an adult told her it was a game. She walked to Lily and held her, tight and long. "You did absolutely nothing wrong," she said into her daughter's hair. "Nothing. Do you understand me? You're so brave for telling Mama." Lily hugged her back, not fully understanding but sensing something important had just happened. After Lily was in bed, Serena picked up her phone and typed a message to Jordan. 3 words. "Use everything. Send." Jordan filed at 7:15 the next morning. Emergency motion for temporary asset freeze. Full financial disclosure demand. Custody protection order, citing documented interference with the child's school. The anonymous tip submitted from a Caldwell Group email domain was attached as Exhibit A. Nina's USB drive contents were filed under seal as Exhibit B. Owen submitted the financial fraud evidence package to the FBI field office in Lower Manhattan at 8 o'clock. By 9 a.m., Serena was sitting in Jordan's office on the 41st floor with a cup of coffee, watching the city below and waiting. She did not have to wait long. At 10:15, Jordan's paralegal knocked and entered. She placed a printed news alert on the desk without a word. Wall Street Journal breaking news. Caldwell Group under federal investigation for financial fraud. Sources cite internal documents and a former executive witness. Jordan read it, then looked at Serena. It moved faster than I expected. Serena said nothing. She looked out the window at the Manhattan skyline, the same skyline she had watched through her car windshield 4 nights ago, and felt something shift quietly inside her chest. That evening, a gilt-edged invitation arrived through a mutual acquaintance. Marcus was hosting a dinner at the Ritz-Carlton that night, a business gathering, carefully curated guest list, the kind of event Marcus organized when he needed to control a narrative before it controlled him. Serena read the invitation twice. She understood immediately what it was. Marcus did not yet know the full scale of what had been filed. He thought he could still shape the story. He thought a room full of allies and a polished performance would establish him as the calm, reasonable party in a routine divorce. He did not know she had been invited too, through a colleague who had no idea what was happening between them. Serena set the invitation on the desk. She reached for her coat and said quietly to Jordan, "I think I will go to dinner tonight." The ballroom on the 4th floor of the Ritz-Carlton was warm and gold-lit, filled with the kind of quiet confidence that comes with serious money. Serena arrived at 7:50 in a simple black dress. No jewelry except the small diamond stud she had bought herself 3 years ago with her first freelance paycheck. She accepted a glass of sparkling water from a passing tray and greeted 3 colleagues she genuinely liked before Marcus saw her. She watched his face from across the room. He went completely still for exactly 3 seconds. Then his expression rearranged itself into something controlled and social. He excused himself from the conversation he was in and moved toward her with the careful pace of someone who was deciding what to say. Diane was beside him in a red dress. She stopped walking when she recognized Serena. Marcus reached Serena first. His voice was low and measured. "I didn't expect to see you here." "I was invited," Serena said pleasantly. "The same as everyone else." A beat of silence. Around them, the event continued. Glasses clinked. Someone laughed across the room. The Manhattan skyline glittered through the tall windows. So Marcus was about to speak again when every phone in the room buzzed simultaneously. The sound was unmistakable, the particular collective vibration of a news alert reaching an entire room of people who follow financial media. Serena watched it happen in real time. The small hesitations, the glances downward, the expressions shifting as people read. One man across the room looked up at Marcus with an expression that was not friendly. Marcus reached for his own phone. His jaw tightened as he read. He looked up at Serena. She held his gaze without expression. Then she set her water glass down gently on a nearby table and said, quietly enough that only he could hear, "I didn't say a single word that night at the River Cafe." She picked up her coat from the chair beside her, but the numbers said everything. By Friday morning, Marcus Caldwell's name was on the front page of every financial publication in New York. The Wall Street Journal ran a detailed breakdown of the shell company structure. Bloomberg followed with a piece on Caldwell Group's stock decline, 41% by midday. The New York Post ran a photograph of Marcus leaving his Park Avenue office building with his collar up, which made everything worse. Serena did not read the articles. She had Lily's school concert that morning, and she sat in the third row and watched her daughter sing off key with complete confidence, and she thought about nothing else for 45 minutes. That was the best 45 minutes she had experienced in years. Marcus, meanwhile, was trying to reach people who had stopped answering. His primary lender called at 9 a.m. to discuss exposure, but 2 board members resigned by email before noon. His PR firm sent a message saying they needed to pause the relationship pending developments. He called Diane at 11:15. She did not answer. He called again at 11:30. Voicemail. At 12:02, a text came through from Diane's number. It was short. "Marcus, I need you to know I'm stepping back from everything for now. I think it's better for both of us. I wish you well." He called back immediately. The line rang 4 times and then gave him a new message. "The number you have dialed is no longer accepting calls from this contact." She had blocked him. Marcus sat alone in his Park Avenue office with the door closed. Outside, his assistant's desk was empty. Nina was gone. His lead attorney had sent a brief email that morning, citing a conflict of interest, effective immediately, so the office was very quiet. He stood at the window and looked out at the Manhattan skyline, the same view he had stood at 1,000 times feeling untouchable. The city looked exactly the same. He was the only thing in it that had changed. The hearing was held in a wood-paneled room on the 4th floor of Manhattan Family Court on a Tuesday morning in February. Marcus arrived with 2 attorneys from a firm he had hired the previous week after his original lawyer withdrew. They were competent and expensive, and they came in with the particular energy of people who had been given a difficult assignment on short notice. Jordan sat beside Serena at the opposing table. Owen sat in the gallery as a named witness. Nina was in the hallway, waiting. Marcus's legal team moved quickly. They filed a motion to dismiss Jordan's emergency asset freeze on procedural grounds. They submitted the psychiatric documentation, the report Marcus had commissioned 11 months earlier, and argued that Serena's judgment was compromised and her fitness as primary custodian was in question. They were methodical. They were prepared. They spoke for 22 minutes. When they finished, Serena stood up. She did not use notes. She began with the asset restructuring, walking the court through every transaction by date, account name, and routed amount. She cited the Delaware Shell Company registrations by filing number. She referenced the Nevada account transfers by calendar quarter. She cross-referenced the timing against Marcus's travel records, which she had memorized from 13 years of coordinating his schedule. The judge asked her to slow down twice so the court reporter could keep up. Then Serena addressed the psychiatric documentation. She named the doctor. She outlined the timeline, the initial appointment Marcus had arranged for her postpartum, the gap of 8 years, the sudden re-engagement 11 months ago just as Marcus's attorneys began drafting the divorce strategy. She noted that the report had been commissioned and paid for by Caldwell Group, not by any independent medical referral. The room was very quiet. Marcus's lead attorney started to object. The judge held up one hand without looking away from Serena. Let her finish. The door at the back of the courtroom opened. Nina Reyes walked in carrying a USB drive and asked the clerk if she was still in time to request recognition as a supplemental witness. The judge granted Nina 10 minutes. She took 7. Nina Reyes stood at the witness stand with her hands flat on the railing and spoke without hesitation. She described her 4 years as Marcus Caldwell's personal assistant. She described the email threads she had been instructed to delete and had instead copied. She described the morning she had been terminated by email while eating lunch alone. Then she described the contents of the USB drive. 2 years of documented communication between Marcus and his legal team. The asset restructuring timeline with implementation dates. The custody strategy document that listed Serena's perceived vulnerabilities in bullet points. The email in which Marcus wrote, in his own words, that if the financial approach failed, the focus should shift to establishing the mother as unfit. Marcus's attorney objected 3 times during Nina's 7 minutes. The judge overruled all 3. When Nina finished, she returned to the gallery and sat down. She did not look at Marcus. The room was still. Then something happened that no one in the courtroom had anticipated. Marcus's lead attorney, the one hired just 1 week earlier, stood up slowly. He straightened his jacket. He looked at the judge and then at Marcus, and his expression carried something that was not professional neutrality. "Your Honor," he said, "I need to inform the court that I am withdrawing from this proceeding, effective immediately. I have become aware of information material to this case that creates a conflict I cannot ethically continue past." He collected his legal pad and his pen and walked out of the courtroom without another word. The second attorney sat very still, as if calculating whether to follow. Marcus was alone at his table. He did not look at Serena. He looked at the surface of the table in front of him, at the legal pad his attorney had left behind, at the uncapped pen lying across it. Serena looked at him once. For the first time in 13 years, there was no one left in the room who was on his side. The judge delivered her findings the following Thursday. Serena sat at the plaintiff's table with her hands folded and her back straight. Jordan sat beside her. The gallery held Owen, Nina, and 3 colleagues from the legal community who had quietly shown up to witness. Marcus sat alone. The judge spoke for 14 minutes. She addressed the asset restructuring first, finding it a deliberate and documented attempt to deprive Serena of marital property. I ordered full restoration plus damages. She addressed the psychiatric documentation, finding it commissioned without independent basis and struck entirely from the record. She addressed the school interference, finding it an intentional attempt to manipulate a custody proceeding through fraudulent third-party reporting. Primary physical custody of Lily was awarded to Serena, full and unconditional. The penthouse on 84th Street was restored to joint marital property and assigned to Serena as primary residence. Financial restitution was ordered at the full assessed amount of concealed assets, plus legal costs. Marcus was referred to the district attorney's office on 2 counts. The FBI financial fraud investigation remained separately active. The judge closed her folder. Court is adjourned. Marcus stood slowly. He looked older than he had 3 weeks ago. He reached for his jacket from the back of the chair, with the careful movements of someone who was not sure what came next. He glanced toward Serena once. She was already turned away, crouching down to where Lily had appeared from the gallery doorway, arms open, running toward her mother, the way 9-year-olds run, without any calculation, without any hesitation, with everything they have. Serena held her daughter for a long time on the courtroom floor. When she finally stood, her eyes were wet, and her face was calm. Outside the tall windows, it was a bright February afternoon, cold and clear. Owen was standing near the gallery door. He did not approach. He caught Serena's eye and nodded once. She nodded back, and for the first time in 2 years, her shoulders dropped, and she simply breathed. 3 months later, the penthouse on 84th Street looked like someone actually lived there. Lily had drawn a row of flowers along the bottom of the kitchen wall in red marker, and Serena had decided to leave them. There were plants on the windowsill that Lily had named individually, a stack of chapter books on the coffee table, a small pair of sneakers by the front door that were always in the way and always exactly where they should be. Serena had returned to law practice in February. Her name was on the door of a small office on 5th Avenue, Walsh, Caldwell and Associates, specializing in matrimonial asset protection. Her first 3 clients were women who had sat in the same chair she had sat in 11 months ago. Women who had signed documents they trusted without reading, and women who had given things up for marriages that turned out to be something else entirely. She understood them completely. On a Saturday afternoon in March, Owen came by with pizza. He had promised Lily weeks ago, and Lily had not forgotten. They ate on the living room floor because the dining table was covered with Lily's school project about ocean ecosystems, and no one wanted to move it. It was ordinary and warm and a little bit loud, and Serena sat on the floor with a slice of pizza and looked at her apartment and thought, "This is what I was protecting." After Lily went to bed, Owen helped Serena clean up. They stood at the kitchen sink side by side. He did not try to say the right thing. He was just there, the way he had been there since the night he knocked on Jordan's door with a briefcase and a hard drive and nothing to lose. Later, on going through an old drawer, Serena found a handwritten letter. Marcus's handwriting. Never sent. Never addressed. She read it once, then she folded it, sealed it in a new envelope, and mailed it to the address where Marcus was serving his sentence. No message inside. Just the letter returned, because some things deserved to be faced, and she was done carrying what was never hers to carry. The office on 5th Avenue had good light in the morning. Serena noticed it every day. The way the sun came through the east-facing window and landed across her desk just before 9, warm and unhurried. She had chosen this office partly because of that light, and had never once regretted it. It was a Friday in November, 1 year and 3 weeks since she had walked into the River Cafe and stood in the entrance for 11 seconds and taken 3 photographs. She was reading a new client's intake file when her phone buzzed. A text from Owen. Picked up Lily. She wants Thai food. Also, she has informed me that she is old enough to choose the movie tonight, and I am outvoted. Serena smiled at her phone. She gathered her things slowly. the way you do when you are no longer afraid of what is waiting at home. That evening, the three of them walked along the Hudson River after dinner because Lily wanted to look at the boats. It was cold enough to see breath. Lily ran ahead the way she always did, coat unzipped despite everything, arms out. Owen and Serena walked beside each other. Their hands had been finding each other on walks like this for the past 2 months. Quietly, without announcement. He stopped walking. She stopped too. He turned toward her, and his expression was the same one she had seen across a courtroom gallery, steady and certain and entirely without performance. "I want to do this right," he said. "With you, with Lily, if you want that too." Before Serena could answer, Lily came running back from the railing, slightly out of breath. She looked at Owen, then at her mother, then back at Owen. "Is this the part where you ask Mama something important?" Owen looked at her seriously. "I think it might be." Lily considered this. Then, "I already decided yes, just so you know." Serena laughed for the first time in what felt like a very long time. Real laughter. Unguarded. She looked at Owen and said, "Yes." The Hudson moved quietly below them. The city blazed behind them. And Serena Caldwell, who had once stood alone in the cold outside a restaurant with everything falling apart, stood now with her daughter's hand in hers and a future that was entirely, finally, her own. The woman who said nothing that night turned out to be the one who had everything left to say, and she spent the rest of her life saying it on her own terms. And that is where Serena's story ends. But if you are still here right now, and I mean truly still here, not just letting the video play in the background, then something in this story touched you. Maybe it was Serena's silence in that restaurant. Maybe it was Lily holding her mother's hand. Maybe it was simply the feeling of watching someone lose everything and slowly, quietly, find something better. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Serena did not fight loudly. She did not beg, argue, or perform her pain for anyone. She let the obstacle itself become her path forward. That is not weakness. That is one of the most difficult forms of strength a person can carry. And here is what I want to leave with you today. The people who betray us often count on our silence to protect them. But sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is choose carefully when to speak, and let everything else speak for you. If this story meant something to you, please take 2 seconds and hit that like button. Share it with someone who needs to hear that starting over is not losing, it is arriving. And subscribe if you want more stories like this one. There is another one coming that I think is going to stay with you for a long time. We will see you there. This story is a work of fiction created for entertainment and emotional storytelling purposes. All characters, names, locations, events, and situations portrayed in this video are entirely fictional and do not represent any real person, living or deceased. Any resemblance to actual individuals, relationships, or events is purely coincidental. The restaurants, addresses, companies, and institutions mentioned throughout this story, including the River Cafe, Caldwell Group, and all associated locations, are used as fictional settings only and are not intended to represent the actual businesses or organizations by those names in any factual capacity. This video does not claim to document real events. It is a dramatic narrative crafted to explore themes of resilience, betrayal, healing, and the quiet strength of ordinary people facing extraordinary circumstances. All emotional, legal, and financial situations depicted are dramatized for storytelling purposes and should not be taken as legal, psychological, or financial advice. We believe in honest, transparent content. Thank you for watching with that understanding, and for trusting us with your time.